This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, that's not good. All right, folks. We are at the Select Board's conference room, and it's March 16th. It says Capcom. And we have Doug Moglen here tonight. We have, is Carl online? No, no Carl, that's fine. Mr. Didi is here, Karen DeMayo, Jeffrey Turcott.
Yes, sir.
Look at that, I'm getting better at this. And Patrick Jubb. All right, so we have enough for a quorum. And we have Lisa Anderson this evening as secretary. Thank you, Lisa, for coming in today. Appreciate it. All right, wonderful. All right, so first up, we're going to accept the minutes of March 2nd, 2023. Everyone had a chance to look them over.
Make a motion for the minutes of March 2nd. Doug Mogul.
I'll second it.
And then seconds them, wonderful. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Doug Mogul and I, sorry.
Karen DeMayo, aye.
Jeff Turcott, I.
Pat Job, aye.
Thank you, sir. Okay, and we're gonna go out of order. I was asked if we could take DPW first, right?
I appreciate
I
that.
remembered that. All right, come on up, sir. How are you tonight?
Very good. Thank you for having me on, now I missed the last meeting.
All right. Completely understand. Funny how that goes.
So DPW, do you,
Yes, sir.
everybody have this page here? It's kind of like a one-page summary of all DPW requests.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
good.
and a little bit further.
Carl, it's for you.
It heard me.
He's on.
Look at that. Come on.
Yeah.
Awesome. You want to take a lead tonight?
There's a summary page and then the next 5 pages.
Okay, Doug, I can see it.
Just making
All
sure
right,
the camera
Doug.
was working, Carl.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see you. I can see Patrick. I can see everything.
Okay, we're almost done.
Almost done, yeah. All right, sir, go ahead.
Well, thank you again. So I know I met with many of you last weekend at the FinCom meeting. So this may sound like a broken record for some items, but we're gonna go through the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have several items to discuss today that fall under Capcom's purview. First of all, under the highway department, there are 4 items here: pavement projects, construction improvements, and then a big one for paving and infrastructure improvements. I'll lump all these together into one discussion. The first 3 are carryovers from each year to year. You can see the way the table set up is the current year budget and then the proposed budget for FY24. So those first 3 items have been carryovers. The values have not changed. I've been here 9+ years, and these are the same values that were there when I started. So we use these items for small scale paving and drainage projects throughout town. Think maybe projects that may be between $10,000 to $25,000 or so. The last one, the big item, is for big request for $3 million for paving infrastructure improvements. Those have been around the last couple of years. No, that's my standard request for paving infrastructure. I don't think it gets whittled down throughout the budget process, but the point is that there's no shortage for projects for paving infrastructure. Shy around town, you can see the roads where they're deteriorating. They don't only need new pavement, but also a lot of situations they need also new drainage as well. So when we do projects, we like to do paving in addition to new drainage wherever possible. So that's the big request. Any specific questions on paving infrastructure? I think it's pretty straightforward, but I can share the last couple of years. The way we typically do this is once the budget is set, I'll meet with the select board. I bring my wish list, they bring their wish list to the table, and then we kind of come up with a few projects to use whatever money was available allocated for that use. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Standard, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next items is road machinery capital. We have 2 requests for equipment this year. One is a dump truck with a snowplow package. We have a 1999 Freightliner truck that is, we have 5 in our fleet. This is the oldest of those trucks. We use this truck for plowing, hauling gravel, stone, any type of material. Obviously, this gets much more use during the winter months than it does during the rest of the year. But this truck has been pretty, for the age, it's been pretty good to us. But it is getting up there in age, 24 years old.
What's the miles on
I don't know, I can check on that.
it?
I can check the mileage. But anyways.
How much are they?
She, she's showing some sign of age,
Oh, yeah.
and we got a plan for the future. Even if we order a truck today, I wouldn't expect this truck to be in our hands for next winter. The lead time on vehicles is 8 to 12 months for the most part. So if we get approved at town meeting, put the order in soon afterwards, but it still won't be in place for next winter. So we're gonna plan on having this truck on the road next winter regardless. And hopefully beyond that, we can replace it out. But we have had good luck purchasing trucks over the past few years, dump trucks. We have 3 fairly new trucks that are within, I think, 6 or 7 years old. And they will last, they're all, we standardize on all stainless steel underbody, undercarriage. We find that goes a long way. The guys do a really good job cleaning it. If you ever drive by the facility after a snow event, you see the dump trucks on the park. They got a system where they clean all 4 sides of the truck, getting every salt off. So that's a dump truck. Any questions on the truck?
No.
No. All right, the next item is a 1-ton pickup truck. This is in the highway department. We have a 2012 Ford F-450 that has 155,000 miles on it. We've had some issues with this. Again, it's been overall pretty good, but just knowing that this truck is not meant to last forever, we got to plan ahead. So we use this truck. All of our highway trucks are everyday trucks. Wherever our highway guys go, they go with us. Whether it be for hauling materials, working on project sites, patching potholes, wherever we go, tree work, they're out there with us. So we're looking for $175,000 for a new pickup truck. And we've also bought several trucks over the years. This would be very similar to the truck we've bought in the past. The only difference is the price has gone up quite considerably on all the equipment over the past, year.
Yeah.
Couple of years.
This does not have a plow though.
It would have a plow.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, we would definitely have put a plow on this truck. And we would take the truck that the highway department currently uses. We would probably bring that down to the transfer station. And they have an older vehicle that they use for their day-to-day use. Does not run every day, but whenever they're doing errands and stuff, they use that truck. That's a truck that would be taken off the road and surplus. And this highway truck would go down the transportation station to use for that use.
Randy, those hand-me-down designated trucks that are at the transfer station, do they just stay on site? Do they need to be still registered or insured?
They should be registered and insured. Yes. Yeah, we do. They don't go off site too often. They are used for primarily moving product around the facility, but they do go off site occasionally.
Okay.
Any questions on the pickup?
And Doug Ray mentioned it, but that price includes the plow. That's what the package is.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And so the last 2 pages of your packet is, last 3 pages are quotes that we have from our vendors for the dump truck and the 1-ton. But yeah, they would include the plow package. Anything else on this truck? All right, moving on to sewer. We have the first item here for grinder pump maintenance equipment. This is pretty much a standard item in our budget request every year. The town owns and maintains 280 plus or minus grinder pumps in individual homes that were installed when the sewers were constructed 20 plus years ago. So those pumps they have failures over time, and we do have to replace them at our cost. So this item is intended to purchase new grinder pumps. And we have in-house staff that will replace it as each pump fails. Any questions on that?
No, like you said, standard stuff every year,
A lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah, the trucks are the trucks. We could ask a million questions, it's still the same truck. So,
Yeah. So we'll get something a little different new. So the next item is Privy Park Pump Station upgrades. So, we're looking for $400,000 to construct that, upgrades to the Privy Park Pump Station, which is located behind the fire department, police department. We did have some money allocated through the ARPA program a year ago. And actually, we went out to bid for this project. Fortunately, we only got one bid at the time, and the price was pretty high, so I ended up pulling the bid off the table. And we figured we'll try to revisit it this time of year. So we do still have the ARPA money available to us. And I'd like to use this money to supplement the ARPA money to build this pump station.
Build or refurbish?
Well, it is refurbished, so we have the pumps themselves, we've all new pumps, new motors and
Yeah,
new
So
generators.
we're just rebuilding.
Yeah, rebuild,
And
yeah.
how much do you have sitting in the ARPA money?
I think it's $375,000.
So you think another 400 you'll need on top of that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's being conservative, I hope.
775. What did that crazy bid come in at?
It was over 600,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had built another pump station, a rebuilt
Couple
another
years
pump
back.
station, the Berkshire Ave pump station, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And now it was less than $300,000. And it was nearly identical to this project. So I'm hoping, I don't think times have changed, you know, a year ago when we went out to bid is probably a bad time looking back at it. ARPA money was coming in and all these
Everybody
types
was
of projects were going out. So it was like, oh, I'll do it. Right. Now it's a little more competitive
Yeah.
bidding environment, so I'm hoping we'll see much better pricing this time around.
And in the past, did we ask for any money for this or was it just the ARPA money
There was I think $150,000
that we?
in there that was approved.
But it goes back in the general fund because we didn't use it, Carl?
We ended up withdrawing before town meeting,
Oh, we did.
so
'cause
it
we-
was never on the warrant.
Gotcha.
last year.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we did go for 150, but then it was withdrawn. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions on the sewer pump upgrades? And the last item is this is under water department, well 2 cleaning. So well 2 was our newest well, it's our primary workhorse. It was installed about 10-12 years ago. And this is sort of, I guess, typical maintenance we would do on a well.
Yep.
Which is to basically break it down, look at all the components. Replace the motors if we need to. And then also they do an acid wash on the screening pipe that's in the ground. Breaks up any material that may be accumulating around the screen. So when the pump does turn back on, it brings it up back to its full pumping capacity.
Gotcha.
So we did the same thing on well 1 about 4 years ago. And that had never been done by
Right.
40 years, but it was like night and day. Once we turned the well
Yeah.
back on, it was basically back to its original capacity. So again, this is good, good maintenance, good practice.
Yep. And that 35 covers the motors too, if they need be at 35?
I think so, yeah.
At
The motors are probably the biggest cost
Right.
of it. What we initially do is we'd hire someone to come in and do it on top, break it down, and then they make some recommendations, what the repairs would need to be done. And I'm hoping that would cover the motor, if we need a motor, they may
understood.
say it
Right.
might be fine, and a couple years out of it.
And that number may be lower than if it's just needs maintenance and doesn't need motors, but around 35 should get us home.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we did the well 1 cleaning, that bill was about $18,000. That was.
Oh,
5
absolutely.
years ago,
Yeah,
so,
that inflation,
yeah.
here we are. Any questions, guys? No? Anyone online have any questions?
No,
Oh, thank you. All right. I appreciate your time. sir.
I'm good.
Well, I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to show you the equipment if you want to take a look at it or any more clarification. Just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your time. Thank you.
The nice part about this board, guys, is when I first got on it 9 years ago, I thought it was like a hatchet till that you had to make decisions and you had to ruin people's life. Then I finally realized it's something that's worthy. Everything's worthy. At the end of the day, everything is worthy. They're not here because it's a Santa Claus. They're here because they need that piece of equipment. So now we get to pass it on to the selectmen and let them deal with it. It's much easier on us than sitting here and having a. Days, right? I'm just saying, just letting everyone know.
I wanna know who I'm gonna hate, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's so well.
Wait a minute.
Past that, but
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Mogul. I didn't realize that. Sorry. Sorry. You saw the bus. Sir, how are you? I'm well, yourself? Wonderful. How's everybody tonight? Great. So we have the police department next. We have Sergeant Landis. If anyone doesn't know him.
Sergeant Landis? Why do you call him chief?
Hey, I got a long.
Wow, that's a couple of years ago.
I got a
too.
long
Wow,
day,
he
yeah.
missed the whole
That's
time.
like it's like a decade
I
ago.
didn't call him detective, so,
Yeah, but
you know.
that's what I mean. He was sergeant, then detective
Yeah,
sergeant,
detective
then
sergeant.
lieutenant
Then
for a few years,
Yeah.
then chief.
You're chief. No,
Try to keep up.
well, if he was doing 6 years with us, I probably would keep up.
Yeah. Doesn't know.
He doesn't know yet? Okay, fair enough. You have the floor, sir. Okay.
So-
More trouble.
This, my request this year is actually more of what we do every year,
Yeah.
really with our cruisers. Sergeant Krutka is the one that does all our work on our cars, and he's been working with MHU back and forth, so I don't have an actual thing from MHU, but the numbers that we've gotten. Cars have gone up $6,000 more, but where we're off, so I'm asking for the same as last year, and the reason being is we're now in the year where. The last couple of years, Ford had changed their body styles and it required a total strip down of the cars. All the components were new because our old stuff that normally we transition into the next car, we
Yeah.
couldn't use. With the cages, all the light bars and everything. Well, now we're into a model where we can repurpose
At least one more year.
some of that equipment. So it's offsetting that cost.
Absolutely.
And then one of the cars we're getting is gonna be replacing my current, which I'm not driving anymore because it's pretty much on its last leg. It was a 2015 Ford Explorer. It's got about 100,000 miles on it now. So we're gonna be getting an unmarked car to replace that. That should last myself and whoever precedes me 8 to 10 years, I'm thinking, we've kept up well. Generally, our maintenance usually can do that. So, we're just looking for 2 cars. It's our normal cycle of cars. Nothing more than that.
Anyway, we can go back and bill Bishop for that car because he probably drove it too hard.
Well, the car,
And now
well,
they
no,
know.
no, I was driving that car. I drove it as
so
a
sorry.
detective, I drove it as a lieutenant, and I kept it as chief. And transitioned the last chief's car, because it was new,
Right, into the fleet.
into the fleet. And now I'm driving it for a short period, I'm back into it.
Gotcha.
But I'm gonna be getting a scaled down version from that.
Right,
Understood. But, that's where we're offsetting the difference in the cost, but our fleet will be just as capable, with that piece of equipment.
so when you got that car originally, were you the first one there?
No,
The great now.
No, that was
Ricardi's car. Oh, that was Ricardi's, right, right. Wow, we got some use out of that.
Yeah,
car.
yeah, she
We
did.
really did.
Yeah.
so chief, part of I was reading through the big packet of green energy stuff from last week. And there was talk about hybrid cruisers in there. Is that cost factored into this?
No, right now, I know. Art Lawler was part of a process.
Yeah.
Investigating. and I
The
talked
green
to him.
energy,
Right, he
Yeah.
asked me about that. In bigger departments where you can utilize those cars less frequently, when all our cars can be out. It could be out of the scene 8 to 6, you just don't know. An electric car at this stage, I don't think would fit us well.
Not electric, but hybrid.
Hybrid.
Both.
Even still, it isn't because they're still very expensive.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
if they-
that
I
was
don't think
one of
they
the
raised-
reasons. Now, that's for the last couple of years, we priced them and looked at it, and it's just, it's extremely, expensive. And I don't think we can do what we're doing with the way we turn over our vehicles and keep the fleet where it's at.
Fair enough.
Bob, do you think if the town were to secure future community green type grants, whether or not that could help secure hybrid vehicles that could be incorporated into the fleet as part of meeting our conditions under the green energy program?
I would look to, maybe you could transition those vehicles into like a chief's vehicle and an administrative vehicle.
Yep.
But our administrative vehicle, we use it, it's fully equipped to be utilized for everywhere. I believe it was Agawam had at one time a hybrid. It was several years ago they got. I don't know of any chiefs that that their departments are using at the moment. I'm sure there's gonna be a future for it, but I just, right now, just not being cost effective is the issue.
Yeah, so that type of an approach may only lend itself for our pool cars and building inspector and those other types of vehicle
Right.
uses.
Correct.
Well, if he's saying it's cost prohibitive for the police to use it, it would be cost prohibitive for a pool car and anybody else, unless you're saying that it's not just cost prohibitive, but the functionality is not what we also
Well, you
need.
think you get a lot more out of the car in what Carl's speaking of, because it's not utilized and get the hours on it as much as. the
Oh,
police
okay.
company does a turnover, you keep it much longer and you.
Yeah,
probably
not,
get-
not only that, Karen, it might be one of those things where once we get this other designation where we could apply for grants to help subsidize the acquisition costs.
Okay,
And we'd almost have to, because most of our pool cars are hand-me-down cruisers, so.
Oh, right.
Part of
And
the-
they,
as one of the caveats of the Green Community Program, and was
Yeah.
outlined early on, and we knew it going in eyes wide open, was that we would lose that ability to transition a standard cruiser to the building inspector, to DPW, to a car in the parking lot that they used for the assessor and everything else. That's not available to you anymore. You can't do that anymore.
yeah, no, right. And some of the cars that Bob was using, those weren't even good enough to be put into use for those departments. That's why we switched some of those people over to auto allowances and we've reduced the number of vehicles.
Right, yeah. So I think that the day of the pool car is rapidly coming to a close, actually. Most of the employees that had a car that was, a used cruiser are now on an auto allowance as part of their employment agreement. And then there's, I think we have one or two left that we use for, the assessor uses it when they go out. The building inspector still has one.
Right.
But,
That's correct, sir.
that is going to change in the future, just by the nature of that program. It's what they allow and don't. That's why I saw in the thing is, they're talking about those hybrid cruisers, and I want to make sure that probably a part of this committee here, but we're gonna have to reconcile that with the future, probably not in this year, but in the future outlying years, reconcile that with what we're signed up for on the green energy program.
Because of other thing too, I would say that probably out of all the entire town's fleet, our cars get the most maintenance because they hit the miles the quickest. And to keep those cars up, I don't know, again, everything that goes with it. Usually our normal things, obviously, are brakes, oil changes, things like that. And then occasionally, you run into problems, but because we keep our cars for a few years, a lot of our stuff, we're still under the warranties before we get rid of them before that happens. We tried it.
Yeah,
We'll just
and
have to talk
you have a lot more engine hours than you do mileage hours because of the nature of having them ready and running to go out during the winter and respond.
Right.
But that, yeah, again, this is not a discussion for Capcom. This is more of a blocking, tackling discussion for future fleet planning. But it does have, it's a discussion that needs to be had.
Yep.
Well, that's all I have.
Wonderful. Any other questions, folks?
Yeah.
No?
Okay,
Well, thanks for the
so
light
much.
touch. We appreciate
All
it.
right,
Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Thanks. Who's the next contestant?
Oh, yeah, one last what looks like.
Cemetery commissions next.
Oh, I was getting to it, sir. How are you this evening?
Good. I'm
Change
gonna
hats?
do it. Jean
it's
has another commitment out of town.
Just to let you know, as you know, I've recently bought some plots, but the place looks beautiful. I just can't get over how the trees, the benches, you've really done a great job over there.
It does. It's really
It
nice.
does.
You can go there anytime.
And you would never, yeah, I do.
I don't know if that was
What, the door's always
on
open?
purpose, but that was awesome.
Yeah.
He just,
Go
I
there
didn't think he'd
anytime.
catch it. You can come there anytime.
I'm sure I'm on someone's list. I'm just not there yet.
Yeah. So last year, we only have two things really in capital. And one is still pending an answer. So the first thing we have is a tractor. So we have a 20-plus-year-old mower that has a bucket on the front. And it has a couple attachments and it's just it's the slowest thing. It doesn't help us do anything. We can pick up dirt with it, but that's about it.
Yep.
We can't dig. A lot of our newer areas is a lot of heavy clay. So to dig a trench for a tree by hand is a killer.
Yep.
We've done it in one section, I mean, we'll do it if we have to, but it's just like, we dig so many holes for so many different reasons. And our digger himself is up there in age and looking to retire
Been through this
soon.
before. Yeah.
And he's literally does 5 or 6 or 7 other towns, and his price is pretty low right now for us. But in the other cemeteries, they're getting like $1,800 to dig a hole, to open and close, and we wanna kinda control that. For our town residents, it's like,
How much am I paying off?
right now, if I were to bury you right
Yeah.
now, it would be $550 to open and close the hole.
Okay.
Which
Was that
isn't,
included
it
in
sounds
what
like a lot, but it really isn't. And then if we have to go and get another digger, they're
Right.
gonna come in at a higher rate because they're bringing their big tractor and they're gonna be digging, and we have no control over the cost.
So we get 550 now. That's not included when I bought the plot though, right? That's an add-on?
That's an add-on.
Okay, just
Right.
right. It's easier to ask while I'm
Gotta
here
open
than it
the
is
hole.
when I can't ask.
Right. No. So the digging isn't just for, it would be for future, if we get the right equipment, then it would be for our future digging it for ourselves. And that cost would be minimal to the family, let's say.
This to be 550.
It would still be
Yeah, which is- which
550,
is fine.
just so that we'd get the money to pay back the tractor.
But does,
Like you would, within a few years, you would be buying that,
You'd be
you would be
even,
getting
yeah.
that back,
Mr. Mogul?
right?
does $33,000 buy a machine that can dig a 6-foot hole?
It
I-
actually does.
I'm asking. 'cause
Yeah, we have a
This
few.
is not my area of
We have a
expertise.
few that-
Let me tell you, but
We have a few that we
It
threw
seems
in
cheap.
there, but, we have one guy up in Belchertown, and he will let us come and use it and actually dig. So we
Right,
get
you
the
can actually
feel
try
of,
to
try to
product, make
dig,
sure
see if
it's-
it's the right one.
Yeah.
Cause I said, if we can't dig on that, on their property and dig a 6-foot hole, then we don't want it. So I don't wanna just say, oh yeah, we want a tractor, you're gonna give it to us and we're gonna go buy the first one and then go, whoa,
we
can't
need
go
a
down
demo
6
so we
feet.
can dig 10 holes.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you
Can we
know.
drop it overnight?
Maybe 11.
Right. And we don't need the mower part, and that was where the Kubota really,
Yes.
it hinders itself as a tractor,
With the mower,
to do
does.
it, because it's just too heavy, you
It
can't
does.
take it off. I mean, it did it justice for the last 30 years or 20 years that we had it, it's just. But I'm looking at what's the right thing to do in the future, for the cemetery, if we get a tractor, I don't want it just to say, oh, I'm just digging it to put a tree in. No, we're gonna use it to actually, when that guy retires in the next 5 years, we're gonna have to come up to a conclusion of, are we digging our own graves? And we used to have someone that did it,
Yeah.
in town,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so,
So I'm just gonna ask a stupid question. I
Yeah.
don't even know if it's part of this board. But is there any thought, and it's probably more towards the selectmen.
Mhm.
Nice piece of equipment, and we get calls in this building for that same piece of equipment at times.
absolutely,
Is it something that could be shared amongst a few different?
Absolutely.
departments?
Exactly what I was
Because here comes
thinking.
winter, you're not gonna dig as much in the winter. And I know a guy that's dying to move snow in the winter around here.
no, but the
think so.
Kubota that I have now,
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking, that would go to somebody else, because
Oh.
it's a plow.
oh,
It has a snow blower on it, attachment. We don't really use that. It's not, I have too many roads in the cemetery
Yeah.
to use it. But for someone that could use it around this area or certain buildings,
right.
it'd be perfect.
And if that certain piece of equipment wasn't big enough, the option, for some reason in this town, certain departments get really hoity-toity with their toys and they don't like to
Yeah.
play with
This
others.
is not a toy for us. This is actually doing
Piece of
work.
equipment, right, but that would be
Yeah.
shared, but that would be shared with other departments if needed.
If needed,
If needed.
if
Yeah, I
needed,
don't mean
right.
taken from you, but
No, right.
If
Yeah,
needed.
if they needed it for a project, absolutely. It's not mine.
The
It's the town.
Thank
I
you.
don't own it.
Yeah,
thank you.
because I was gonna ask.
I don't put no
how
heart and
often is it
soul into it.
used?
No, understood, but I just,
You
How
know,
often? For right now, we're doing a lot of digging. And we have all new sections. So, I mean, I don't know. If you ever go there, we have this big, huge sand pile. For some reason, when the guy digs the hole to put a grave in there, and I don't mean to sound morbid, but when he digs the hole, he takes that dirt out and he puts it in a pile and he puts it over there. When I think of, I'm like, okay, but you just buried the person. Can you go get that same pile and put it back in here? No, we can't do that.
really,
I don't know.
Were
I'm
they-
trying to find
where is
out.
it?
There's no law.
they bring it fresh.
So now we have this big, huge sand pile that's just in the way and it's on land that I could be using for my future burials and I
It'd be easier to
can't, I
dig the
can't like
graves.
just
Any
push it.
funerals I've been to, they pick it up and they put it like right next to it,
They
and I
cover it
thought
with
they
beautiful
just put
green.
that back.
They cover it nicely.
Right.
Maybe some excess space on square footage and capacity, right?
A little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, and then we, and
Not
then,
as much dirt's going back in the hole as what came out, but not a lot.
but that whole sand pile is
Exactly.
from all the future sand and it's just crazy.
No, I was thinking
Mr.
maybe like
Chairman?
you, there's stuff on here.
That would be me, yes.
It's just that if you wanted to use this other newer tractor, in addition to the hand-me-down one, you'd have to make sure that it's coming with the attachments or the ability to have attachments that you could use it, and that may not be reflected in this price because that was not Lisa's original intention as the sexton.
Oh, understood. And it does have some pieces with it, but yes, it may not move snow, but my understanding is the other one might move snow. And my understanding is it does have a bucket that could move snow bank. So
Yeah.
I think between all the pieces, you'd have
Well-
punctuality for everybody.
So
Okay.
I just
I
asked,
know what you're saying.
but I just asked Dave, I know what you're getting at, but like I just asked Dave, there's a truck that in the back that's always in the parking lot, no one's using it. I said, could I, as a cemetery, buy a smaller plow and put it on that truck to use it to plow my cemetery? And he's like, oh no, that's just too small of a truck. I'm like, all right, but I get the intention, like I would pay out of my budget
No, I
to
understood.
pay
Yeah,
for a plow to put on a truck just for 3 or 4 months out of the year to plow my.
Right.
I would do that and then take it off and it's still your truck. I don't.
No, I
I
got.
don't
it.
Right,
have
but-
to
but-
own everything,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But, Mr. Chairman, I believe that other truck, if it's the gray one, it's
Yeah.
used up at the fields for 7 or 8 months a year, and that's a two-wheel drive vehicle.
Right.
no, understood.
Right. No, but that was my intent
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
ask, can we borrow, can I add
Yeah,
a thing on
appreciate
there? And
that.
Yeah.
No,
I get it.
absolutely.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
We appreciate you thinking like us.
Mhm.
no,
Yeah.
it's not mine, I don't own it,
No, I
but,
got
and
you.
I would
Yeah.
share whatever.
I just, we
needed.
keep seeing tractors come up and I think it's a great idea we start maintaining and digging our own graves
Yeah,
personally.
well, because we get to control the cost to the families.
The
That's
cost
what-
plus
that's-
the availability's gotta be an issue on some weekends, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, so now.
And now the other
It's
thing is
in-house.
now it's winter time and now we're open in the winter time, which is a great asset. The families love it. They get to have closure right away instead of waiting 5 months.
It's wonderful.
It's, that part is wonderful. But when you hire someone that's not in your town, they don't care if they drive over a flat grave
Nope.
and destroy it. So now we're looking at what just happened in the last month. And we're like, now we have a lot of work to do that we didn't have on our plate before. So now we have to fix all these stones when we already had a list of stones we had to fix.
Right.
So it's like we care about what's there and we would not be driving over it like they are.
So
So
the bigger question
just
is,
makes
how
it
many
more
more years
sense.
do you have left on the cemetery commission?
me, as a sexton,
This is great that you're involved and you're doing all this, but we got you for 4 or 5 years at least?
oh, I'll be
All right.
80.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Now we're
retired.
pretty good. Do
80.
you have a
That's
thought?
my retirement.
Okay.
plan. Yeah.
Direct.
No, yeah,
Understood.
I don't plan on giving it up to.
Just asking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't want you changing what I just did.
I could never do what you did. That's
So
beautiful.
that's the tractor. So that just
Okay.
explains the tractor. The roads, last year you gave us 12.5, I believe, on the roads.
Yeah,
The 3 new sections that we had put in. The first section is 8, then it's 9 and 10. 8 is already sold. I think I have 6 plots left in 8 to sell. And that was only in 1 year. So I don't know what's happening, but people are like pre-planning real
Hmm.
fast. So half of it's filled with people and the other half is just you saying, oh, I need to buy my wife a plot real soon. You know what I mean?
yeah, and then not tell her and then you.
Yeah, it does not tell her. Yeah,
It's mailed to the
they didn't
house
mail.
and she has to call me.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So
Oh,
I'm
you
just
tell me?
saying I have three, so those are all dirt roads now.
Yes.
And you gave me money, but when I went to the contractor, they said that wouldn't even pay to have us bring the trucks in. And I'm like, well, that's not fair. That's the price you guys told me.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, no, that's all gone up now. So now I have a price, which I attached was from Andrick, Crestview, it's 32,550. That would do all 3 sections
Yeah, and be done with it.
and be done with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had great intentions last year.
No, the money's still there and Laura says I can roll it over and save it if you gave me more money to add to that. It's not like the money has to go back into the pot She
So
did
does
say
that
I could keep,
include that money
I-
taken out of this?
no, this doesn't include, that's what I was asking.
Well,
Cause the 12.5 is still sitting in a line item. So that would be minus this,
you
correct?
just gotta be careful. I mean, so just, I was thinking about
To have a
that too.
buffer or
In-
whatever.
In the overall construct, right? So when we don't look at revenues, we're looking at expenses. So
Right.
that's the total cost of project.
Right.
You can't really net. You gotta,
Yes.
I think we gotta vote on that as a project, because the
Right.
other project never happened, just pretend it didn't happen. And then you look at, when you do the budget hearings part is the funding side of it, and then
That's when
you
we'll
figure out
adjust
if you
it.
can actually do it or
Yeah,
not.
yeah, I got you.
but-
I'm with you.
You know, the same thing with Randy's pump station was a good
Right.
example, right? That's whether that funding came from ARPA or it came from,
Okay.
you know, a winning lottery
Yeah.
ticket, it doesn't matter. And also for the record, I did not buy my wife a plot. If she's watching this video, I did not pre-buy her a plot. If I do,
I
I'll
think
make
there's
it.
some available next to me.
I'm just saying.
Well, I wasn't sure how the money part worked,
No, and I don't
because the
either.
money was
Right,
there.
that's what
I
I'm saying. If you got.
No, no,
12.5
you
million,
did it correctly. That's how, but we have to look at it as. this
Later, we'll
committee.
discuss, we'll
project,
discuss the numbers.
You look at the, you know, you look at the revenues and then the expenses, and then you
Right.
try to make a budget and come up with a tax rate. At this point here, you're saying your Capcom, I think, under the charter that Carl sent us is, charter is the wrong word, but the rules that we operate under is to evaluate the project on its merit.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
So it's best to disclose the whole amount of the
Right.
cost of the project.
okay. Well, then it's
Yeah,
32.55.
Yep, yep,
Gotcha.
you did right.
Yeah,
Okay.
It is correct, yeah.
Okay. And that's all I got.
Okay, anyone have any questions for him?
I think for the tractor piece, we're gonna have to look at that on the budget side. And just, and maybe the Dave tractor and the cemetery tractor, there is one tractor there, but we probably need the trailer. To move it between the
Versus
two places
two
versus buying two
tractors.
tractors,
Absolutely.
right?
agreed.
Maybe that is the
The better. angle.
economical solution to
Yeah.
that problem,
Cause can that even be used over at Wally Park?
It actually could be used everywhere.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if they need it at Wally Park during the day, but then they gotta go. Put in
Yeah,
a
but that's-
grave, you know, it's a
Mhm.
different.
Right, smarter heads prevail.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and-
Even
But
though
that's to your point about the team work, you know, then we got Randy at DPW, hey, can you move this for me real quick? Kind of, sort of.
We might even have a trailer that's big enough to carry
I
that,
would
so,
hope
Well,
that-
yeah.
that's a good
Investigation
discussion.
areas.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, so, you know,
Yeah,
and then, you know.
we do have a trailer that could move it. We absolutely do.
Yeah.
In-house. It just a matter who's sitting with it and
Right.
and who's licensed to drive. You know, I can already hear the other bing, 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 bing.
Right.
But
But it's
overall,
that's a
yes.
good discussion to have operationally with
Yeah.
buildings and grounds and the cemetery and.
Yeah.
And
And it would just
everybody
have
else.
to be
And
a
DPW.
priority of the dead people come first.
Most of the time they do.
Unless it happens to be
Yeah,
snowing.
that's,
And
that's.
then you gotta clear town
At
hall.
least if they make
No.
it to the cemetery, they come.
Right.
They're in the
Dave and
trunk
I
of a
get
car,
along
they're in the
good,
trunk.
so
Well,
not
you-
an issue.
you always have to. We always have to plan these things. I just had this conversation with David the other day, right? I know, David, I know you will do this, but you are not the guy 20 years from now. We gotta
Right.
think the way we do things.
Right.
It was around,
Yeah,
restrooms or something and winterizing. I'm like, Dave, there's a book. Follow the book and make sure the book's up to date. And he goes, oh, I know. I go, I know, you know.
Right.
But in 10
the day you're
years.
sick and
Yeah,
someone else does it.
yeah, and you know, 10 or 15 or 20 years, and you're not the guy, that book's still on the shelf, so we don't spend 10 grand to fix the damage in the bathrooms because
The
they
frozen
weren't
pipes, yeah.
winterized right. So, but this is the same idea, if you set up the ground rules, you set up
Yeah.
the policy and
Yeah.
how you do it, and then your people that come after you
Right.
have a model to operate under.
Manual's already done.
Any other questions for Lisa? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a
Back
good
to
day.
secretary.
Oh, no, you're back.
Let's go back to secretary.
Fair enough. So we do have an update, guys, for the fire station bid. Somehow it lost $80,000. Got trimmed a little bit for the walls and whatnot, so the new number is 174, not the 250 that they came in looking for the other day, just so you're aware of that. And once again, we vote on the purpose, we don't vote on the other way. So, and we also have this, the tie and bond report, Carl, we didn't have this last time in regards to the old Firemen's Association buildings.
No, we had a number last year that we ended up doing the asbestos abatement phase.
Yes.
So we did not have this at our last meeting because I had been waiting for it through Ty and Bond. And if you read the contents of the email and all the back and forth, you'll see
Yep.
the whole chronology of it, sir.
Yeah.
And again, this is the old Firemen's Association building
Yes.
behind the new behind the new fire department building in the back.
It is.
And it's now in also a wetland area, because when the building was originally built in 1965, the Wetland Protection Act did not exist.
Right.
So it's now in a resource area.
Right. So the bottom line, it looks like it's engineering is 30 and the rest is demolition.
Right, and with, they'll have to be well, there's permitting, it's got to go through a wetland permitting, and it has to be obviously monitored, it needs a demolition permit through the building department, so there's still stages that have to happen, and right now we're carrying unoccupied building insurance on this for several $1,000s a year.
Understood. Thank you. So if you know my opinion, I don't think we're gonna blow 140 to 160 and knock it down. But we'll have that discussion at another time. Because I'm not gonna let this go for that kind of. We gotta get that lower. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Steinhardt in regards to that? I see none. All right, the next phase of this,
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So. On the. Fire Association building,
yes,
under the purview of the cap comp.
Yep.
It's $25,000 or more with a life expectancy of 3 years or more. So a building demolition would be a life expectancy of, you would think you're terminating the life expectancy.
would
Yeah,
think.
well, that's true, it might not fall under it, but it's
So
still a
just
large
keep that in
number.
mind as we move to the vote on that, because I don't think that qualifies. I
And-
think
and what-
it's gonna be a big expense, more than $25,000.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's not a capital
It's not an
investment unless you're saving the slab, and then you're saying you're investing $150,000 to preserve a slab in the wetlands that we could use for something.
Which was a previous option, that's why I wasn't, since I'm not making that policy decision, I'm still bringing it through this board so that we're covered either way.
Gotcha.
Were there any funds appropriated last year?
We
For
did
this
the
project?
asbestos abatement last year
And that was, right,
through this, I don't know, I wasn't on this.
No, that was a year-end transfer under the Municipal Modernization Act in June.
Okay, so it didn't come in front of this board.
okay.
That would have set precedence of how we voted tonight had it gone through this.
Well, no, we had something in front of this board last year in regard to this. I just don't know when it went to finance committee, if there was any appropriation
We
made.
didn't have any money.
Right, okay.
Yeah, no, not for the whole thing, no.
Right.
But Jeff, we did decide we had to do the first step, which was the hazardous waste abatement.
Okay.
Okay. Any new business? All right, so up next, we're gonna vote. And like I said, we're really voting on the worth of the project, and we're not worried about where the money comes from, how it's financed, what our current look back on numbers are today. Right, you understand? Yeah. Okay. All right. So first up is the fire department request for sleeping quarters for staff. The amount is $174,000.
It's actually, I make a motion to, I don't know how these work, but what is the motion is to recommend?
Well, first we'll make a motion to recommend. If we don't have that, then we'll look at a motion to deny.
So I'd make a motion to recommend the fire department project of sleeping quarters for staff in the amount of $174,500.
Oh,
Because that's what was on the fire department's request.
Yeah.
So your sheet in front of you shows who's making the motion and seconding and so forth, so.
Yep.
Who's seconding it?
I'll second it.
So Karen or Patrick?
We'll use Karen.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, we'll use Karen.
So Doug and Karen made a motion, we'll second it. All those in favor?
Roll call vote.
Doug Mogul and I.
Thank you.
Karen DeMayo, aye.
Jeff Turk, aye.
Patrick, aye.
Yep, Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Joe DDI. Okay, so that passes. Next up is the fire department request for overhead door openers, $36,500. I need a motion to recommend or deny.
Doug Mogul, so moved.
To recommend.
To recommend.
I'll second it.
Karen seconds it. All those in favor? Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick,
Pat Job, aye.
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
thank you, guys. All right, next up is the police department request for cruisers, $109,500. Looking for a motion? Either
Jeff
approve-
Turcott, so moved.
All right. Jeff made a
I'll
motion.
second it.
Carl seconded it. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Thank you.
Pat
Carl
Job, aye.
Steinhardt, aye.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, Patrick. DPW Highway Division. Carl, we have to take these all separately, right?
I think you've taken them as a block before.
That's what I thought too.
Mhm.
All right, so let's take the 50,000 for pavement projects, the construction for 47,500. And the highway division improvements for 30,800. These are standard, we've done them every year for many years. A motion to approve or deny.
Doug Mogul make the motion to recommend those three.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Jeff Turcott, second.
All right. Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick?
Pat Job, aye.
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Thank you. DPW Highway Division request paving and infrastructure improvements for $3 million. I need a motion to approve or deny.
Karen DeMayo, will
Approve.
make a
All
motion.
right, Karen made the motion.
Doug Mogul, second that.
Everyone second it. Thank you. Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Patrick?
Pat Job, aye.
Carl
Steinhardt,
aye.
Thank you, Carl. So those all been approved so far. Okay, DPW Highway Road Machinery, request dump truck with snow package. The amount is $318,000. I need a motion.
Jeff Turcott makes a motion for the highway department for the amount of $318,000 for a dump truck.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick?
Pat Job, aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes. DPW Highway Road Machinery, 1-ton pickup truck with plow package, $175,000. I need a motion.
Jeff Turcott, make that motion, $175,000 DPW 1-ton pickup truck with a plow package.
Second.
Doug Mogul, second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Aye.
Pat? Thank you. Oh, what was approved? Okay, another standard one is the
Yeah, Pat Job, aye.
sewer division grinder pump maintenance equipment, 30,000. I need a motion.
Doug Mogul, recommend the grinder pump maintenance equipment of $30,000.
Thank you. A second.
Jeff will second that.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick?
Pat Job, aye.
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Thank you. That was approved. 50 Park Pump Station upgrades, 400,000. I need a motion.
Doug Mogul, recommend the 50 Park Pump Station upgrade, $400,000.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick? Carl?
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Patrick?
I think he froze,
Yes,
looking at the
folks.
screen.
Alrighty. So one abstention, just to be safe. Okay. Next up is the Water Division request well to cleaning for the amount of 35,000. Need a motion?
Doug Mogul, make that recommendation.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Did he chat? Did he chat?
I don't think so.
Pat? Pat, you're looking better. All right, the motion was made and seconded.
Yeah, I think he's frozen.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
frozen. Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo,
Doug Mogul.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Patrick, you're not there with us. All right, Patrick, no more extension due to communication.
So now. We're getting to, this is the town complex maintenance factor. This is the one Dave Sutton was talking about.
Correct.
You know how we were saying that we wanted to share this?
Right.
Oh, yeah, town complex maintenance tractor for 32,860. And then we'll have it again under cemetery tractor for 33,000.
So if we go to vote on this, how do we?
You have to vote on what's in front of you, not
Right.
about the discussion we had about our future. We vote what's here. And then, because we're here to say, is it worthy, right?
All
It
right,
is.
so even though we think both are worthy, we would have to say,
That's a separate,
yeah,
They're both
yes to
separate.
both, and then it's
Yeah.
after the fact,
Yes.
you
which we
figure out
will.
how,
Yeah,
okay, I just want to make sure before I say yes or no.
Yeah.
yeah,
Karen, you'll be wearing your other hat later on.
Right.
Okay, I
Right.
just wanted to knowing how I want to vote or how I see this playing out, how am I supposed to vote is what I'm saying. Am I supposed to say yes to one and no to the other, or yes to both? Yeah.
And then it gets.
I think you say, if it's yeses in you, then it's yes to both, because they're both separate things. We as a board discussed, how can we do the right thing and make our money go longer? Which we will, with our finance committee hats on Saturday, on the
Okay.
road. This discussion will be had again, and then on the Tuesday night meetings, it'll be had again.
Okay, I just wanted
It's
to
not
make
gonna
sure.
just go away.
Now I know how.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't know if I'm right, but that's just my opinion, and I'll. think
Okay.
that.
I agree. I mean, there's some projects on here that they may not happen this year budgetarily, but they're not, doesn't mean they're not worthy. They're not gonna get the
Okay.
money this
Right.
year, but I think you do, and I don't think you can advance it. If, let's say we said no to the cemetery tractor and approve the other tractor. Well, but it's not enough money for everything. I think you're better off to evaluate each one on its own merit and
Right.
send it forth and let the finance committee and the select board
Right,
establish their budgets and go through that process of
Right.
negotiation to come up with a budget. And then put it in front of the voters, because it really doesn't matter. And I say this flippantly, but it doesn't matter what the finance committee and the select board do. Town meeting is the legislative
At the end of
body
the
that
day.
approves any spending.
right.
So that the approval of the budget is the legislative action that allows the town to spend the money.
Okay,
So
okay.
Yeah, we're just the shepherds, right?
I don't mean it doesn't matter, but
No.
No.
the act of the select board, going, yeah, this is a great budget.
But this
but
is
the town
allowing
meeting-
it to even go
Correct.
forward.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay,
Yeah, and I don't think I mean, it's great that we have a board. That's great that we meet and do this, but I don't think it's. At the end of the day, I think it's the whole finance committee, the whole select board. That really should hear things. Does it have warrants that's over 25,000? I get that. But and like I said, my first few years on here, nope, there was nopes, and there probably should have been yeses. Because it wasn't fair that it didn't get heard all the way through. I mean, we're here for a reason, I get that, but I just think it's.
But this day, I mean,
You know what I
I
mean?
agree with you. This daylights some of it though, and like,
It does, absolutely.
and
does.
if we want it, we don't have to go in order. But if you look at the demolition of the old
Right.
fire association building. I'd be tempted not to send that forward. I think $190,000 to tear down a building. Frankly, let it fall down, right? And then we'll figure it out. But I don't think it's been there for a long time. It's not an imminent danger of falling down.
Right,
That's a huge expense.
it
That,
is.
so and it does not, and I question whether it belongs in front of this committee, period, because I don't think it has a lifetime of 5 years.
Right,
If we go ahead and fund it, it has a lifetime of about 6 months. But I think if you take a look at that project and go, well, this is not. Or someone could come in front of you. We're lucky. The DPW guys, they are not coming in front of us with a wish list of stuff that they know that they think that they should have, and we don't think that it's worthwhile. That equipment's gonna be needed, whether it's this year or next year or the year after. There's no doubt you're gonna need it. The same thing with this tractor,
Right.
right? And the police chief with cruisers, right? We
Right.
need that. But if he came to us and goes, I want to replace all of our cruisers with, big big SUVs and all this other
Sure.
stuff, this is the place to stop that stuff from happening
Right.
right away. But we're lucky that this committee has always been blessed in looking at projects that are, for the most part, worthwhile, and then to go on to the finance committee and the board of selectmen, and then to town meeting.
Right.
Right? I think that was the, kind of the, reading the documentation, the kind of the history behind why you have a Capcom. I wasn't here when it came in. Carl, were you here when Capcom came in? And that's not an old guy joke. I just mean it sincerely.
Yes, I was, sir. It was,
So, is that
Finance
kind of the-
Committee Chairperson Robert Meneguzzo had come up with the idea.
Yeah, I think it just daylights big ticket items,
Absolutely.
even more so that it's part of the budget process.
Right.
So, I think it's just another set of eyes and, there's other folks that are not on FinCom and the Board of Selectmen that can have a look at it. And it also brings, the other thing that's missing from any other committee is look at the composition of the committee here itself. Who's on this committee that's not on any other committee? Carl, the CAO, is actually a member of this committee. Carl's not a member of the finance committee. He's not a member of the board of selectmen. So when we vote on all the other stuff, Carl's advisory, he's sitting here telling us, his thoughts and everything else, because he's gonna have to manage it throughout the year, but he actually has a direct vote at the Capcom.
That being said, Doug, and you're questioning that demolition project, is there any way for us to table that to get clarification? Whether it's even needs to be in front of us?
Well, I mean, we can
Because you brought up
decide.
a good point.
I think, I kind of jumped around here a little bit, but I think from that, I'm not a big proponent of that project. I don't know that I don't know how I would vote yet, but I don't know if it even qualifies to be here, but if any, and let's just say for the purpose of discussion, it did. I think that's a discussion that we could have as this committee and go, it's to recommend or not recommend that expense of $190,000 or $150,000 to tear down the fire association building. It's kind of held harmless. There's no asbestos left in it. There's no chemicals in the building. There's no oil tanks in the ground.
Well, what's the expense, the insurance expense, I guess, that was brought up.
But if it's $5,000 a year, so I got
How many years?
30
Right.
years of
Right.
that insurance bill to pay for before I hit pay dirt on that.
Yeah.
I would be coming from the direction of the definition of capital from the accounting viewpoint.
Yeah.
Is that you can't depreciate that.
Right.
So is that really capital?
I've
Well,
actually
maybe
had
Dave
that.
gets a new tractor and he runs into it, knocks it over.
We also talked about it being, behind the fire department.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they do have that burn building right next to it, but.
training building.
Make a
But,
great training building.
yeah, but, and you're right, Karen, but, I've talked about this with Carl numerous times, but because of its, like the grinder pumps, right, that's not. They're gonna spend more than more than $25,000, but they're buying a bunch of pumps. So I would argue that probably doesn't need to be in front of this committee either. Because each one of those grinder pumps that they're gonna replace doesn't add up to $25,000. I get it, precedent that we've been doing it that way. They may buy, and then there's other maintenance equipment that they buy along with that money. But, and certainly even the well cleaning, when you really get into it, when you look at that as, is that capital? Because how much is the motor? If the motor was $25,000, capital. If the labor cost to do it is that, it's not. I don't know that under the true
Well, I
banking
question
definition of
that.
capital, it's not.
At the-
But the town account, we don't have
budget
depreciation. We're not a for-profit business, so there's no other side of the ledger to determine a profit and loss. You really don't carry a depreciation number. The only time depreciation kicks your ass is when your ambulance gets wrecked on College Highway and you find out that they depreciate the ambulance when your insurance pays you what's left of it. So this process, some of this stuff skirts the very definition of that, but I don't want to get hung up on that. I think it's a good process to bring more daylight to these expenses and it's really no harm.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and again, this also, because at one time there was the option where the building was going to be renovated.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
and that could have meant keeping the slab, and then the slab could have been built over again. So That's why, it had other potential options that could have been. And then later Ty and Bond, as we went along, said, you're gonna have to. You have so much work, you're gonna have to do the slab and everything else underneath the slab with utilities. That you really are at the point where you might as well tear it down.
And then, do you leave, and this isn't even the purview of this committee, I think, it's probably better vetted in front of Concom or whoever else has jurisdiction over it too, is do you leave that slab? Because does that leave you the possibility to put something else there at some point? I don't even know if it's in a wetland today, and that's swim lanes, right? I'll let conservation opine on that. Whether because it's there and it's pre-existing, we could rebuild on that without affecting a wetland. But certainly tearing down a building in a wetland, you got to go through them to get the permits to make sure you do everything correctly without damaging the wetland. I'm not suggesting that at all. That's certainly in their swim lane, but anyway.
And one would argue we're gonna replace it with gravel or dirt, right?
Oh,
So we're
yeah,
better off with the concrete slab because we're not gonna have any erosion.
correct.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, where did I? steal your
Patrick, are
meeting,
you
Mr.
on
Chair?
with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Alright.
we did vote on the sewer.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yes.
can. The sewer division 50 Park Pump Station. We were looking for your vote on that, if you don't mind.
That's an aye.
That's an aye.
Patrick Job, aye.
Yeah, and then the water division, the well cleaning for 35,000, we also voted on that.
Yep, Patrick Job, aye.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get you up to date with us.
Thanks.
Okay, so town complex maintenance tractor, amount $32,860. I'm looking for a motion.
We're going to make a motion to recommend that.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen Mayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick Job, aye.
Thank you, Carl.
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Thank you, sir. All right, up next is the public safety maintenance request for PD HVAC, $60,000. I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the public safety maintenance HVAC for $60,000.
Okay, is there a second?
Jeff Turcott, second.
Okay, all those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen Mayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick?
Pat Job, aye.
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Thank you. Approved unanimously. Cemetery request for a tractor. The amount is 33,000. I'm looking for a motion.
Doug Mogul will make the motion for the tractor for the cemetery.
Thank
I'll
you.
second the
And noting
motion.
It's almost exactly the same price as the one for town complex.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Carl. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen Mayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick?
Pat Job, aye.
Thank you. Carl?
Carl Steinhardt, aye.
Thank you, sir. Okay, request for paving, the amount $32,551. Looking for a motion to approve.
Jeff Turcott, make that motion. Cemetery requesting 32,551 for paving.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Doug, go ahead, Karen.
I'll second it.
Karen DeMayo seconds that. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen Mayo, I.
Doug Mogul, aye.
Jeff Turcott, aye.
Patrick?
Pat Job, aye.
Thank
Carl, aye.
you. Thank you. I think that's a great question, Doug. I think we should just table this. We know the importance is there, but it really does not fall under us. It's been a great discussion and it's out there. It still moves forward regardless. It's not we don't stop it. I think if we table it, we don't need to vote on it.
Well, that's why I asked. I don't know.
I agree with you. It
Can,
really
because it's
doesn't
in front of
fall
us, either
under
vote
us.
yes or no.
Yeah,
But
Still go
to
through the motion.
but to
and
the
vote, huh?
definition portion of it,
I think it would be worse to vote no on it.
right. Motion to table.
Carl, do you have you want to opine on that?
Sure, I'm fine with that. It's one of these things that's sort of, evolved over the last several years. The important thing that we're trying to do is we had something that was turned over to us and we've done what we needed to do from a fiduciary point of view to research it and what needs to be done ultimately. Whether we do it now or later and we understand the cost of holding it over, that's fine too. But
But
you know,
by us tabling-
my position as the person who represents the select board, who are in charge of all municipal buildings, is to make sure that when these things are, come about, we have to do the research and we have to give you your options on what needs to happen.
And I appreciate that, but by us tabling that, that doesn't end this. It still
No.
goes forward.
No,
Right. Still
No.
goes forward, correct?
you have, yeah, your board has the authority to to revisit things anytime it wants.
I'm answering my question.
So,
Carl, I table this, does it kill it? That's all I want to know. I don't want to revisit it a week from now because we're not going to have a meeting.
no, not for this board, but it doesn't keep the selectmen and the finance committee from visiting it on their own.
Here's your,
Thank you,
Okay.
sir. I need a motion to table.
Jeff Turco, I'll make that motion to table the public safety building for $190,000 demolition project.
Second,
I'll second it.
thank you. All those in favor, Joe DDI.
Karen DeMayo, aye.
Doug Mogul and I.
Jeff Turco, aye.
Patrick,
He's gone.
we've gone.
Carl Stein had I.
Thank you, sir. Oh. Okay, so I've read this before. A motion was made by a second, okay. Chairman and Finance Committee to approve the FY 2024 capital expenditure report and transit to full Finance Committee. To transmit to the full Finance Committee and Select Board. I need a motion to do that.
Doug Mogul and so moved.
Second,
Jeff Turco, second.
thank you, Jeff. All those in favor of moving this project forward, Joe DDI,
Karen DeMayo, aye.
This would be to just send this report to the.
this
board.
report, send this report upstairs.
Which is required under the town bylaw
Thank you.
Jeff Turco.
as of March 15th.
Thank you, Pat Job.
We're a day late.
Thank you, thank you. All right, and I need a, yes or no, Carl?
Yes,
Thank you. All right, that was,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir,
I would, because this board will not meet again, right? We're done?
correct.
Right.
So I would make a motion, as this is our last act with no further discussion, subject to the chair, to make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 16th Capcom. Based on what we just worked through the draft minutes, she wrote in the names of the votes and as taken plus changed, moved to table.
Do you think this gets you out of next year's meeting, sir, by go ahead and doing that? I'm just a little confused, sir.
Trying.
So I'll make a motion to
Is there
approve the
something we don't
minutes of
know?
the March 16th meeting as our last act, and the only other vote take will be to adjourn. So if you're okay with that, I'll put forth that
We've never
motion,
done
Mr. Chair.
that, but
Well, somebody's gotta approve the minutes.
we do next year, but
We didn't do, did we do that at the beginning?
yeah.
Yeah.
which
perfect.
was
Up to
painful.
you. I
But-
like
but-
tying
but
up
you know
with
what
a
the
bow
scary
and then
part
we're
is,
done.
but you're leaving that open for a whole year. So you get one Freedom of Information Act, and we're gonna say our minutes aren't done,
Well, now they,
right?
They're
I mean, if
done.
you think about it, that's. what we're doing.
the other thing too is boards can submit minutes as what's called
Correct.
draft and still file them in the clerk's office, and then they've met the requirements of the public records law.
Thank you, Doctor.
There's a second.
So, did you make a
I did make a motion.
I'm gonna second that.
The chair seconded the motion.
Just, what the heck? We're living on the edge. I did a
Horrible
Joe
day.
DDI? No, I agree.
Karen DeMayo, aye.
Doug Mogul and I.
Jeff Turco, aye.
Patrick Chubb, he's gonna probably. say
Aye.
Oh, he's
And
there.
I am the table too.
All right.
And I-
Mr. Steinhardt.
Yes,
Wonderful.
Then I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll
Second,
second that.
there's a second. Joe DDI.
Karen
Aye.
DeMayo,
Aye.
Jeff Turco, aye.
All right, folks, thanks for your time and patience.
That job, aye.
And hope-
Carl Stein at I.
I don't know if that's from now or it's into the text.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you guys. Thanks
Have a
for
great night.
coming online. We appreciate it. Have a good evening.
thank you.